Millionaire CEO invites his ex-wife to his event to mock her, but she came with his secret twins. Grant Holloway stood frozen in the center of his own charity auction, staring at two children who had his face. Not similar, not kind of like him. Exact copies, down to the way the boy's left eyebrow lifted when he was thinking, down to the sharp angle of the girl's jaw when she said it in determination. 7 years old, maybe 8. Twins. His twins. Standing beside the woman he'd spent a fortune trying to destroy. That was 30 seconds ago. Now across the ballroom, a man Grant thought he'd buried 5 years ago was walking toward the microphone with a smile that promised blood. Hi, my lovely family. Welcome back to Mr. William Chronicles, where every story carries a life lesson worth remembering. If this is your first time here, we're so glad you're here. Show some love and hit that subscribe button and become part of this amazing community of story lovers. Let me speak a blessing over you. May you have the courage to face what you've broken and the strength to rebuild it piece by piece. May you recognize that showing up consistently matters more than showing up perfectly. And when you find yourself at the bottom, having lost everything you thought defined you, may you discover that becoming someone your children are proud to know is worth more than any empire you could build. May your redemption be measured not in grand gestures, but in the quiet faithfulness of every single day you choose to be better. 2 hours earlier, Grant adjusted his watch, $18,000 of Swiss precision, and looked out over the auction floor from the balcony of the Riverside Grand Hotel. 300 guests mingled below. Investors, competitors, journalists, all of them here because Grant Holloway threw the kind of event you didn't decline. She just confirmed, his assistant Maya said, appearing beside him with a tablet. Iris Brennan. RSVP'd, yes, 20 minutes ago. Grant felt satisfaction settle into his chest like expensive whiskey. Warm. Burning. Perfect. Good. Make sure she's seated at table 12. Front and center. Maya hesitated. Grant, are you sure about this? I mean publicly. I'm sure. He didn't look at her. Everything's ready? The presentation's loaded. Kellen's team confirmed they'll cut the grants at midnight. Her nonprofit loses funding in. Maya checked her phone. 4 hours. Then we're right on schedule. 8 years. That's how long Grant had waited for this moment. 8 years since Iris Brennan walked away from their engagement party without explanation, leaving him standing in front of 300 people with a ring in his pocket and humiliation burning through his chest. Everyone remembered. The whispers followed him for months. Did you hear about Holloway? Left him standing there. Must have found out something. Wonder what he did. He hadn't done anything. That was the part that carved deepest. She just left. Vanished. Refused his calls. Moved out of her apartment. Disappeared like he meant nothing. So Grant did what he did best. He built an empire. Took the pain, the rage, the crushing weight of rejection, and turned it into fuel. Destroyed 3 competitors that first year alone. Bought out a tech startup, stripped it for patents, and left the founder broke. Expanded, acquired, dominated, and every move, every victory, every billion added to his name, none of it filled the hole she'd left. But tonight would. Grant had spent 6 months setting this trap. Anonymous donations to her women's shelter. Grants that arrived exactly when rent came due. He'd created a financial safety net she didn't know existed. One he could yank away whenever he wanted. Tonight, Iris would stand in front of his foundation board and beg for continued funding. She'd present her little nonprofit with its cute mission statement about helping single mothers. And Grant would smile, let her finish, then cut every dollar. She'd lose the building, the programs, everything she'd built while he was becoming the man she'd rejected. Mr. Holloway? Maya's voice pulled him back. Security flagged something. Someone's been trying to access your acquisition files. The sealed ones from 2019. Grant frowned. Who? They don't know yet. Digital fingerprints are professional. Like corporate espionage level. Handle it. Tonight's not the night for distractions. Maya nodded and disappeared into the crowd. Grant checked his reflection in the balcony glass. Charcoal suit, perfectly tailored. Hair styled just enough to look effortless. He looked like success. Felt like victory. The ballroom doors opened. Grant turned, ready to watch Iris walk into his trap. And his entire world tilted sideways. She wore a simple navy dress, nothing expensive. Her hair pulled back the way he remembered. Same sharp eyes. Same way of holding her chin up when she was nervous. But beside her, holding her hands, were two children. A boy and a girl. Dark curly hair. Light brown skin. Maybe 7, maybe 8 years old. The girl scanned the room with cautious intelligence. The boy gripped his mother's hand, but his eyes, sharp, focused, calculating, swept across the crowd like he was taking inventory. Grant's brain stuttered. He knew those eyes. Saw them every morning in the mirror. The resemblance wasn't subtle. Wasn't kind of similar if you squinted. It was undeniable. Aggressive. Impossible to miss. The boy had Grant's exact eyebrow shape. The girl had his jawline. They both had the same intense stare he'd been told made people uncomfortable in meetings. Grant's hand tightened on the balcony railing. No, this wasn't. He counted backward. 8 years since she left. Minus 9 months. The timeline fit. His chest constricted. The carefully constructed evening, months of planning, every detail orchestrated, disintegrated into noise. Those were his children. His children. Walking into his trap. Looking around his event with faces he'd never seen, but somehow knew completely. Maya reappeared, following his gaze. Who are oh? She went quiet. Grant, those kids. I see them. They look exactly like. I said I see them. Across the ballroom, Iris spotted him. Her spine straightened. Fear flickered across her face, quickly buried under something harder. Defiance. She knew he'd planned this. Knew she was walking into an ambush. And she'd brought them anyway. Why? To guilt him? To introduce them before he destroyed her? To show him what he'd missed? The girl, his daughter, tugged on Iris's hand, said something Grant couldn't hear. Iris nodded, whispered back. Grant started moving before deciding to. Down the balcony stairs. Through the crowd. People tried to stop him. Investors wanting FaceTime, journalists asking for quotes, but he pushed past without responding. He was 10 feet away when the ballroom doors burst open with enough force to make everyone turn. Kellen Cross strode in like he owned the place. Grant's blood went cold. Kellen Cross. The software engineer Grant had destroyed 5 years ago. Stolen his code, buried him in legal fees, took credit for innovation that should have made Kellen a billionaire. Last Grant heard, Kellen was bankrupt. Broken. Gone. But here he was. Walking toward the stage with security flanking him. Grant's own security, which meant someone had paid them more. Ladies and gentlemen, Kellen's voice boomed through the speakers as he took the microphone. I apologize for interrupting your evening, but your host has some secrets you should know about. Grant lunged forward. 2 security guards blocked his path, men he'd hired personally, now holding him back with apologetic faces. Mr. Holloway built an empire, Kellen continued, pulling out a remote. The projection screens flickered to life. But let me show you exactly how he built it. Documents appeared. Patents. Emails. Legal files. This is Cortex Solutions, Kellen said. Grant bought them in 2018, claimed their AI framework as his own innovation. Fired the entire development team. Here are the original patents. Notice the real inventor's name. Not Grant's name. Someone else's. The crowd murmured. Another slide. Meridian Analytics. Acquired 2019. Grant took their predictive algorithm, rebranded it, sold it to 3 Fortune 500 companies. The original creator settled out of court after Grant's lawyers buried her in motions. Grant's stomach dropped. Slide after slide. Company after company. Every major innovation Grant claimed, stolen. Every success story built on someone else's destroyed career. I have testimony from 47 engineers, Kellen said. People whose work Grant Holloway stole while they were under NDA, couldn't fight back without losing everything. I have federal investigators ready to file charges. And I have one question for all of you. Kellen looked directly at Grant. How does it feel to watch your life's work exposed as fraud? The ballroom erupted. Phones came out. Investors stood, already calculating exits. Board members whispered urgently. Grant stood frozen, security still holding him back, as his empire collapsed in real time. But his eyes weren't on Kellen. They were on Iris, on the two children standing beside her, watching him with expressions he couldn't read. His children, and he'd just lost everything in front of them. Before we dive into what happens when Grant's world crashes down, do me a favor. Subscribe to Mr. William Chronicles and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. You're the reason these stories exist, and I love connecting with you. Let me know you're here. Grant couldn't move, couldn't think. His brain split into two wars happening simultaneously. War 1. Kellen Cross destroying everything he'd built, document by document, lie by lie. War 2. Two children with his face standing 30 feet away, watching him burn. These emails, Kellen continued, swiping to the next slide, show Grant Holloway offering engineers promotions, getting them to share proprietary code, then firing them before bonuses came through. He'd patent their work under his name within weeks. The projection screen filled with correspondence, dates, names, evidence, so clear even his lawyers couldn't spin it. An investor Grant had known for 6 years stood up and walked out. Then another. Then 5 more. His phone exploded with notifications, buzzing so hard it felt like something dying in his pocket. But Grant's eyes stayed locked on the girl, his daughter, who'd stepped slightly forward from Iris, studying him with an intensity that made his chest hurt. She wasn't scared, wasn't crying, just watching, taking notes, almost, like she was collecting data about the man her mother had protected her from. "Mr. Holloway," Kellen said, and Grant finally looked at him. "Do you want to defend yourself? Explain to these good people how you became a billionaire." The security guards released Grant's arms. He could rush the stage now. Stop this. Call his lawyers, spin some story, blame disgruntled ex-employees. But what would that look like to those kids? Their father caught red-handed, still lying? Grant stood frozen as Kellen delivered the final blow. "I've been working with federal investigators for 7 months. Criminal charges are being filed Monday morning. Wire fraud, corporate espionage, theft of intellectual property across state lines." Kellen paused. Grant Holloway's empire was built on stolen dreams. And starting tonight, it's over. The ballroom descended into chaos. Journalists rushed forward, shouting questions. Investors huddled in groups, already texting their lawyers. Board members surrounded Maya, demanding explanations she clearly didn't have. Grant's phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Probably his legal team. Probably calling to tell him how thoroughly destroyed he was. He ignored it, because the girl was walking toward him. Just walking. Through the chaos, past the shouting reporters, around the panicking investors. Her mother reached for her, tried to pull her back, but the girl shook her head and kept coming. She stopped 3 feet away. Up close, the resemblance was even worse. She had his nose, his exact eye color, that weird gray-green his mother always said came from his grandfather. "You're the man in the pictures," she said. Her voice was quiet but firm, adult, almost in how direct it was. "The one who made our mom cry." Grant's throat closed. "I'm Piper," she continued. "That's my brother Owen." She gestured behind her where the boy still stood, half hidden behind Iris. "We came tonight because Mom said we needed to see who you really are before deciding if we wanted to know you." The words landed like physical hits. Before deciding if we wanted to know you. Not the other way around. Not whether he wanted them. They were deciding if he was worth their time. And they just watched him get exposed as a fraud in front of 300 people. "Piper, come here." Iris appeared, placing a hand on their daughter's shoulder. Their daughter. The words felt impossible in Grant's head. Iris looked at him directly for the first time in 8 years. "We should leave." "Wait." Grant's voice came out rough. "Please. Just what?" Iris's calm cracked slightly. "Stay so you can finish humiliating me?" so you can cut my funding in front of everyone and take the shelter from the women who need it. She pulled Piper closer. I figured out your game months ago, Grant. The anonymous grants. The donations that always came at exactly the right time. I'm not stupid. I know you're not. Then you know why I left 8 years ago. Her voice dropped lower, but somehow cut deeper. I watched you destroy a man's entire career because he corrected you in a meeting. Watched you fire your assistant because she brought the wrong coffee. Watched you treat every single person around you like they were disposable. Owen moved closer to his mother, still not speaking, but his eyes, Grant's eyes, locked onto Grant's face with an expression that looked like disappointment. From a 7-year-old who'd never met him. I came to tell you I was pregnant, Iris continued. 3 separate times. Stood outside your office building, working up the courage. And every time, I'd see you through those glass walls, screaming at someone, humiliating them, destroying them for mistakes that didn't matter. She took a breath. So I chose to raise them alone rather than let you teach them that love comes with conditions. That people are tools. That winning matters more than being decent. Are they mine? The question tore out of Grant. He knew the answer, could see it in their faces. But he needed to hear her say it. Yes. Iris didn't hesitate. Piper and Owen are yours. But you stopped being their father the day you became someone I had to protect them from. A woman pushed through the crowd. Grant's mother. Tears streaming down her face. Mom. Grant turned to her, desperate for someone on his side. But she wasn't looking at him. She was looking at the twins. Hi, Grandma, Piper said, and Grant felt the ground disappear beneath him. Grandma. You knew. Grant's voice barely worked. You knew about them? His mother finally met his eyes. Since before they were born. Iris came to me when she was scared and desperate. When she needed help and had nowhere to go. And I've been supporting them ever since. You've been, Grant couldn't finish the sentence. For 8 years, you've been helping her hide my children from me? I've been protecting them from you, his mother corrected, firm. From the man you chose to become. The same man your father was. Cold, absent, measuring everything by profit and nothing by love. She moved to Iris's side, placing herself between Grant and the twins like a human shield. I watched you turn into him, his mother said. Watched you sacrifice every relationship on the altar of success. And I refused to let another generation suffer what you suffered. What I suffered. Grant opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came. Behind him, Kellen was wrapping up his presentation, promising more evidence, mentioning federal investigations and pending lawsuits, guaranteeing that Grant Holloway's name would be synonymous with fraud by morning. In front of him stood his mother, the woman he'd loved and lost, and 2 children who shared his DNA but looked at him like he was a stranger. A dangerous stranger. I want to know them, Grant heard himself say. I want a chance. A chance. Iris's laugh was bitter. You had 8 years of chances, Grant. Every day you chose your empire over becoming someone worthy of them was a chance you threw away. I didn't know they existed. Because I made sure you didn't. Because the man you were would have treated fatherhood like another acquisition. Another thing to own and control. Iris gathered both twins close. But you want to know the worst part? I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. I left because I loved you too much to watch you destroy yourself. And I loved them too much to let you destroy them too. Owen spoke for the first time. His voice so quiet Grant almost missed it. Why did you hurt people? The question was simple, childlike, devastating. Grant looked at his son, and had no answer that wouldn't sound like an excuse. Grant started, stopped, started again. I don't know. Mom says hurt people, Owen continued. She says you learned it from your dad, that he taught you love wasn't real, so you stopped believing in it. The accuracy of that statement, coming from a 7-year-old, felt like surgery without anesthesia. Owen's right, Piper added. But Mom also says everyone gets to choose if they keep the hurt or heal it. She chose to heal. What did you choose? Grant looked at this fierce little girl who had his stubbornness, his intelligence, his way of cutting through nonsense, and realized she was right. He'd chosen the hurt, weaponized it, built an empire on it, and it had cost him everything that mattered. "We're leaving now," Iris said. She met Grant's eyes one last time. "If you're serious about changing, you know where to find us. But don't come unless you mean it. Don't promise them anything unless you'll follow through. They've lived 8 years without you. They can keep living without you, if that's what you choose." She turned, guiding the twins toward the exit. Piper glanced back once. Just once. Her expression said everything. "Prove you're worth knowing." Then they were gone. Grant stood alone in the center of his collapsing empire. Investors fled. Reporters circled. Security guards who'd taken someone else's money watched him with pity. His phone buzzed again. 73 missed calls. 46 texts. All of them probably telling him his life was over. But for the first time since Iris left him 8 years ago, Grant Holloway wasn't thinking about his empire. He was thinking about 2 children who had his face and their mother's courage. Children who'd just given him one chance to become someone worth knowing. And he had absolutely no idea how to do it. Grant watched Iris walk away with the twins, and something snapped inside him. Not anger, not pride. Something deeper, older. The part of him that remembered being 7 years old, watching his own father choose a business trip over his birthday. Again. Wait. His voice cut through the ballroom noise. Iris stopped but didn't turn around. "Please," Grant said. "Just 5 minutes. You don't get to ask for time anymore." Iris's shoulders tensed. "You lost that right when you spent 8 years becoming exactly what I was afraid of." "I know." Grant moved closer, careful not to crowd them. "I know I don't deserve it. But they do. They deserve to hear me say it to their faces." Piper tugged on Iris's hand, whispered something Grant couldn't hear. Iris looked down at her daughter, then at Owen, then finally turned around. 5 minutes, she said. "Then we're gone, and you don't contact us unless I say so." Grant nodded. His hands were shaking. When was the last time his hands shook? They moved to a quieter corner, away from the reporters still circling Kellen like sharks. Grant's mother followed, silent but watchful. Owen spoke first. "Mom says you're smart, that you can build things and solve problems really fast." Grant blinked. "Wasn't expecting that." "Yeah, I guess. So, why didn't you solve the problem of being mean?" The question hit like a punch to the throat. "Owen," Iris started, but Grant held up a hand. "No, he's right to ask." Grant crouched down, eye level with his son. "The truth? I didn't think being mean was a problem. I thought it was a solution." "To what?" Piper asked, crossing her arms. She had his exact defensive posture. "To feeling small," Grant admitted. "My dad made me feel invisible. Like nothing I did mattered unless it made money or looked impressive. So I decided to become someone so big, so successful, that nobody could ever make me feel small again." "Did it work?" Owen's head tilted, genuinely curious. "No." Grant's voice cracked. "I just got better at making other people feel the way my dad made me feel. And I told myself that was strength." Piper studied him. "Mom says real strength is being kind when it's hard. That anyone can be mean. That's easy." "Your mom's right." Grant looked at Iris. "She was right about everything. And I was too proud to admit it." "You invited her here to hurt her," Piper said. Not a question. A statement. Grant could lie. Soften it. But those eyes, his eyes, would know. "Yes," he said. "I wanted her to feel what I felt when she left. I wanted her to lose something important so she'd understand what she did to me." "But she didn't do anything to you," Owen said, confused. "She just didn't want us to be sad." The simplicity of that statement destroyed Grant. "You're right," he whispered. "She protected you from me, because I wasn't safe." "Are you safe now?" Piper asked. Grant opened his mouth, closed it, thought about lying, then decided these kids deserved better. "I don't know," he said honestly. "I want to be. But wanting and doing are different things." Finally, Iris muttered, "Something true." Grant stood, facing her directly. "You said you came to tell me 3 times. About the pregnancy. Does it matter now? Tell me anyway." Iris's jaw tightened. First time was June 14th. I stood outside your office for an hour. Watched you scream at your assistant until she cried because she ordered lunch from the wrong place. I left. Grant remembered that day. Remembered feeling justified. The assistant had messed up his schedule. Second time was August 2nd. Made it all the way to your floor. Heard you on the phone with a competitor, laughing about bankrupting him, bragging about taking his company and his reputation. Iris's voice stayed level, but her hands clenched. You sounded thrilled about destroying someone's life. I took the elevator back down. And the third time? Grant asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know. October 9th. I was 12 weeks along. Starting to show. I told your receptionist I needed to see you. Said it was urgent. Iris looked him dead in the eye. You sent a message back that unless I was dying or offering business opportunities, I should email your assistant to schedule something for next month. Grant's stomach dropped. I didn't know it was you. I gave my name, Grant. Your receptionist told you Iris Brennan was in the lobby. She paused. You said you were too busy. The memory surfaced. Vague and dismissive. He'd been in the middle of negotiations. Hadn't wanted interruptions. So I left, Iris continued. And I decided that if you couldn't make 5 minutes for me then, you'd never make time for them. Ever. You should have pushed harder, Grant said, then immediately regretted it. Iris's expression went cold. I should have pushed harder? I tried 3 times to tell you that you were going to be a father, and you couldn't be bothered to walk downstairs. But somehow that's on me. That's not what You want to know what broke me? Iris cut him off. That last visit. Sitting in your lobby, watching you through the glass walls, pacing while you yelled at someone on the phone. And I thought, if I tell him, he'll make this about ownership. Control. He'll fight me for custody, not because he wants to be a father, but because he can't stand losing. Grant's mouth went dry because she was right. 8 years ago, that's exactly what he would have done. Hired lawyers. Demanded rights. Treated fatherhood like a competition he needed to win. I was going to marry you, Iris said quietly. Loved you so much it scared me. But love isn't enough when the person you love is actively destroying themselves. She looked at the twins. So I chose them over you. Every single day. And I'd do it again. Piper slipped her hand into her mother's. Owen pressed against Iris's other side. United. A family. Without him. Did you ever think about telling them about me? Grant asked. Or were you planning to pretend I didn't exist? We know you exist, Piper said, annoyed. We're not babies. We've known since we were 5. Grant blinked. What? Mom told us the truth, Owen added. Said you were our biological father, but you weren't ready to be a dad. That maybe someday you would be, but maybe not. And that was okay, because we had her and Grandma. Biological father. The clinical distance in those words hurt worse than any insult. They've asked about you, Iris admitted. Wanted to know why you weren't around. I told them you were busy building something important and didn't have space in your life for kids. I didn't trash you. Didn't make you a villain. Just told them the truth. You chose your work. And we chose to be okay with that, Piper said, matter of fact. Because Mom says people show you who they are, and you have to believe them. Grant looked at this fierce little girl, who'd somehow made peace with his absence at 7 years old, who decided she was fine without him rather than spend years desperate for his attention. He should feel grateful she wasn't angry. Instead, he felt the crushing weight of being forgettable. What happens now? Grant asked. Now we leave, Iris said. You deal with your legal problems. Your scandal. Whatever happens next with your company. And the twins. They're not the twins. They're Piper and Owen. They're people, not accessories. Iris's tone sharpened. And they stay with me, where they're safe and loved and don't have to wonder if their father values them or his reputation more. I want to be in their lives, Grant said. I want to try. Wanting isn't the same as doing, Iris shot back. You want redemption? Earn it. You want a relationship with them? Prove you can show up consistently, not just when it's dramatic or convenient. Behind them, Kellen finished his presentation. The projection screens went dark. Investors had mostly fled. Grant's board members huddled together, already planning emergency meetings. His phone buzzed again. 79 missed calls now. Your empire's falling apart, Iris observed. Shouldn't you be handling that? Let it fall. Grant surprised himself with how easily the words came. All of it. The company, the reputation, the money. None of it matters compared to this. Pretty words, Iris said. But I've heard your pretty words before. They don't mean anything unless they're backed by action. Then tell me what to do. Grant's voice cracked. Tell me how to fix this. You can't fix it, Iris said simply. You can't repair 8 years of absence with one conversation. You can't make up for choosing revenge over showing up. You can only move forward differently, and even then, there's no guarantee they'll want you in their lives. She guided the twins toward the exit again. Wait, Grant's mother said, speaking for the first time. Iris, let me talk to him. Iris hesitated, then nodded. 5 more minutes. Then we're leaving, and Grant, if you follow us, I'll get a restraining order. She left with Piper and Owen. Grant watched them disappear through the doors. His mother stepped closer. You look like you're going to break. I feel like I'm going to break. Good. Her voice was firm but not cruel. That means you're finally feeling something real instead of burying it under ambition. You've been helping her for 8 years, Grant said. Lying to me for 8 years. I didn't lie. You never asked. Never noticed I was sending money to charity. Never questioned why I kept bringing up family and connection. She touched his arm. I tried to warn you. Tried to tell you that success without love is just expensive loneliness. You didn't listen. I listened. No, you heard. But you didn't listen. She squeezed his arm. Your father did the same thing. Chose money over me, over you, over everything. I stayed too long trying to change him. Iris was smarter. She left before you could damage those kids the way your father damaged you. Grant's throat burned. I don't know how to be a father. Nobody does at first. But you start by showing up. Not with gifts or grand gestures. Just showing up. Being present. Choosing them over everything else, even when it's inconvenient. What if they don't want me? Then you respect that. But you keep showing up anyway, proving you're different. Not for them, for you. Because becoming someone worthy of their love will make you a better person regardless of whether they ever forgive you. She kissed his cheek. I'm going with them tonight, making sure they get home safe. You handle your legal mess. And when you're ready, really ready, to do the work of becoming a real father, you know where to find us. She left. Grant stood alone in the destroyed ballroom. Investors gone. Board members scattered. Empire crumbling. His assistant Maya appeared, tablet in hand. Grant, we need to. I'm done, he said. Done with what? All of it. He looked around the room. The company, the brand, this life. Let it burn. You can't just quit. Watch me. He walked out of the Riverside Grand Hotel, leaving behind the empire he'd built on stolen dreams and broken people. For the first time in 8 years, Grant Holloway had no plan. No strategy. No next move. Just the crushing knowledge that he'd wasted nearly a decade becoming someone his own children had learned to live without. And the fragile hope that maybe, if he could become someone different, they might eventually make space for him in their lives. Maybe. Grant's penthouse felt like a museum at 2 a.m. Expensive. Empty. Cold. He stood by the window, looking down at the city he'd spent years conquering. Lights stretched for miles. Buildings with his name on them. Investments that made him richer while he slept. None of it mattered. His phone sat on the counter, screen shattered from when he'd thrown it against the wall an hour ago. Before it died, he'd seen enough. The news had spread fast. Tech billionaire exposed as fraud. Holloway empire built on theft. Federal investigation announced. His lawyer had called 16 times. His accountant 9. The board members had sent a joint email informing him of an emergency meeting Monday morning. Translation. They were pushing him out. Grant poured another drink. Didn't taste it. Just held the glass. The worst part wasn't losing the company. Wasn't even the criminal charges waiting for him. It was knowing his children had watched it happen. had seen him for exactly what he was: a thief, a fraud, a man who built success by destroying others. His mother's words kept playing on repeat. Your father did the same thing. Grant had spent his whole life swearing he'd never become his father. The man who missed every birthday, every school play, every moment that mattered. Who showed love through money and distance. Yet here Grant stood. 8 years of his children's lives gone. 8 years of first words and first steps and first everything. And he'd missed it all chasing the same empty success that had hollowed out his own childhood. He'd become exactly what he hated. The penthouse intercom buzzed. Grant ignored it. Probably his lawyer, refusing to take a hint. It buzzed again and again. What? Grant snapped into the speaker. Mr. Holloway, there's someone here to see you. Says it's urgent. Tell them I'm not. It's about your children, sir. Grant's stomach dropped. He hit the unlock button without another word. 60 seconds later, his mother walked in. Alone. Where are they? Grant asked immediately. Are they okay? They're fine. Home. Asleep. His mother set her purse down. I came back because we need to talk. If you're here to tell me what a failure I am, I'm here to tell you what happens next. She sat on his couch like she owned the place. Monday morning, you're going to get calls from your board. They'll ask you to resign quietly. Take the fall. Let the company distance itself from you. I know. You're going to say yes. Grant frowned. What? You heard me. You're going to resign. No fight. No lawyers spinning stories. You're going to own what you did and step away. That company is my entire life. That's the problem, Grant. That company is your entire life. Not your children. Not relationships. Not anything real. His mother's voice stayed calm but firm. You want a chance with Piper and Owen? Start by proving you can choose them over your ego. Grant's hands clenched. So I just give up? Let Kellen and the board win. This isn't about winning anymore. It's about becoming someone worth knowing. She stood, moving to the window, beside him. Iris told the twins we were coming here tonight. You know what Piper said? Grant shook his head. She said, is he going to be different, or is he going to be like before? His mother looked at him. That's your question to answer. Are you different, or are you the same man who valued revenge over showing up? I don't know how to be different. Then learn. Go to therapy. Actually deal with your father issues instead of burying them under work. Volunteer somewhere that forces you to help people without getting credit. Do something that isn't about you or your reputation. Grant wanted to argue, wanted to defend himself. But his mother's expression stopped him. She wasn't angry. She was tired. I watched your father destroy himself chasing success, she said quietly. Watched him push away everyone who loved him because he thought money and power were enough. He died alone in a hospital with nurses who didn't know his name. That's what this path leads to. I'm not going to. You already are. She cut him off. You're already alone. Already pushing people away. Already measuring your worth by what you own instead of who you are. The only question is whether you stop now or keep going until there's nothing left. Silence filled the penthouse. Grant thought about his father's funeral. How few people came. How the eulogies felt hollow because nobody really knew him. How Grant had stood there thinking, I'll never end up like that. Iris isn't going to make this easy on you, his mother continued. She shouldn't. You don't get to swoop in and play dad when it's convenient. You have to earn every single moment with those kids. How? You show up. Every single day. Even when they don't want you there. Even when it's awkward and uncomfortable. You prove through actions, not words, that you've changed. She picked up her purse. I told Iris I talked to you. Try to see if there was anything worth salvaging. So tell me, is there? Grant looked at his mother. Really looked at her. She'd stayed with his father for 20 years, hoping he'd change. Hoping he'd choose family over ambition. He never did. And she'd watched Grant head down the same path. Tried to warn him. Tried to redirect him. He hadn't listened. I want there to be, Grant said finally. I want to be different. But I don't trust myself to follow through. Then don't trust yourself. Trust the process. Therapy every week. Volunteering every weekend. Showing up at Iris's shelter to help, not to see the kids. Doing the work even when nobody's watching. And if I do all that, then what? Iris just lets me see them. No. His mother's answer was immediate. You do all that for you. To become someone you're not ashamed of. And maybe eventually, Iris sees you're serious and considers supervised visits. But that's her choice. Her timeline, not yours. Grant's jaw tightened. So I have no control? Now you're getting it. His mother smiled sadly. You spent 8 years controlling everything. Building an empire where you called all the shots. Look where it got you. She gestured around the empty penthouse. Maybe try surrendering control. See what happens. She walked to the door, then paused. Piper asked me something else tonight. What? She asked if you were scared. When you saw them. His mother's voice softened. I told her yes. That you looked terrified. I was. She said. Good. That means he cares about something besides money. His mother opened the door. Your daughter's giving you a chance, Grant. Don't waste it. She left. Grant stood alone again. But this time, something felt different. Not hopeful exactly. More like clear. He couldn't undo 8 years. Couldn't erase the damage. Couldn't force forgiveness. But he could choose differently going forward. He could resign Monday. Own his mistakes. Face the consequences. He could start therapy. Actually deal with the wounds his father left instead of pretending they didn't exist. He could volunteer. Learn to help people without expecting anything back. He could show up. Every day. Whether or not his children wanted him there. Not because it would definitely work. But because it was the right thing to do. Grant pulled out his laptop. Started typing an email to his board. Short. Direct. Effective immediately. I resign as CEO. I take full responsibility for my actions. I will cooperate completely with investigators. He hit send before he could second-guess it. His phone buzzed with notifications even though the screen was shattered. Probably the board members freaking out. Probably his lawyers having heart attacks. Grant ignored it all. For the first time in 8 years, he wasn't thinking about his next business move. He was thinking about 2 kids who'd learned to be okay without him, and wondering if he could become someone worth knowing before they stopped wondering about him entirely. If you're still watching and feeling something right now, hit that like button. Grant just lost everything that never mattered to find out what actually does. Show this story some love with a like, and comment Wake Up Grant if you believe people can really change. And subscribe to the channel. Trust me, it gets even better. 3 weeks later, Grant stood in front of Iris's shelter with a mop and a bucket. The building looked tired. Paint peeling. Windows that needed replacing. A sign out front that said Safe Haven Women's Center in faded letters. This was where his money had been going. The anonymous grants he'd used as leverage. Except now there were no grants. No money. No leverage. Just Grant. And a mop. He'd called Iris 2 days after resigning. Asked if he could volunteer. Help with maintenance. Whatever they needed. She'd been silent for so long he thought she'd hung up. Why, she'd finally asked. Because I need to learn how to help people without expecting anything back. Another long pause. Fine. Tuesdays and Thursdays. 9 to 5. You're on cleaning duty. Don't talk to the residents unless they talk to you first. Don't ask about the twins. Don't expect to see them. Clear. Clear. That was 3 weeks ago. Grant pushed through the front door. The lobby smelled like industrial cleaner and coffee. A teenage girl sat on the worn couch, backpack at her feet, staring at her phone. She looked up when Grant entered. Recognition flashed across her face. You're that guy, she said. The billionaire who got busted for stealing. Grant's jaw tightened. Yeah, that's me. Huh. She went back to her phone. Didn't think you'd actually show up. Why not? Rich people don't do real work. They just write checks and feel good about themselves. Grant grabbed his mop. Guess I'm trying to be different. Sure you are. He didn't argue. just headed to the supply closet. Iris appeared from her office, carrying a stack of folders. She saw Grant and her expression went carefully neutral. "Storage room flooded last night," she said. "Needs to be cleaned before the mold sets in. Supplies are in the back." No greeting, no pleasantries, just instructions. Grant nodded and got to work. The storage room was worse than flooded. It was destroyed. Boxes soaked through. Donated clothes ruined. Water still pooling in the corners. Grant spent 4 hours hauling damaged items to the dumpster. Mopping, scrubbing, bleaching. His back ached. His hands blistered. His expensive watch, one of the few things he hadn't sold to pay legal fees, got soaked and stopped working. He didn't complain. Around noon, a woman in her 30s walked past. Stopped. Stared at him. "Wait, you're Grant Holloway." Grant braced himself. "Yeah. I work for you. For years ago. You fired me for being 10 minutes late because my kid was sick." His stomach dropped. "I'm sorry. Save it." She kept walking. Grant stood there, dripping mop in hand, feeling the weight of every person he'd hurt. By hour 6, his shirt was soaked with sweat and dirty water. His shoes were ruined. He smelled like bleach and regret. But the storage room was clean. Iris appeared in the doorway, looked around. Her expression flickered, surprise maybe, before going neutral again. "Good work," she said. "Come back Thursday." That was it. No acknowledgement. No praise. Just come back Thursday. Grant nodded and left. That became his routine. Tuesday and Thursday. 9 to 5. Whatever needed doing. He fixed broken toilets, patched drywall, painted over graffiti, organized donations, hauled furniture. The residents whispered about him. Some hostile, some curious. Most just ignored him. Grant didn't talk unless spoken to. Didn't defend himself. Just worked. Week 2, a single mom named Carmen asked him to help move a donated crib to her room. "You're really him?" she asked while they carried it upstairs. "The guy from the news?" "Yeah." "Why are you here?" "Court-ordered community service." "No. I'm here because I need to learn how to be a better person." Carmen snorted. "Bit late for that, isn't it?" "Probably. But I'm trying anyway." She studied him. "My ex used to say he'd change. Never did. Just kept making promises and breaking them." "I'm not making promises," Grant said. "Just showing up." Carmen didn't respond. But she didn't tell him to leave either. Week 3, Grant arrived to find the teenage girl from his first day mopping the lobby. "Thought you'd quit by now," she said. "Why would I quit?" "Because this sucks. The work's hard. Nobody here likes you. And you're not getting anything out of it. Maybe that's the point." She rolled her eyes. "You rich people and your guilt projects. Give it another week. You'll disappear like the rest." Grant kept showing up. Thursday of week 3, his mother came by. Dropped off groceries for the shelter. Saw Grant scrubbing the kitchen floor on his hands and knees. She didn't say anything. Just watched for a moment, nodded, and left. That night, Grant sat in his nearly empty apartment. He'd sold most of his furniture to pay lawyers. The penthouse was gone. This place was small, cheap, nothing like what he'd had before. His phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello. It's Iris." Grant sat up straight. "Is everything okay? Are the twins?" "They're fine." Her voice was cautious. "I'm calling because Piper asked about you." His heart stopped. What did she ask? She wanted to know if you were still volunteering, if you'd quit yet. Iris paused. "I told her you've been showing up every Tuesday and Thursday for 3 weeks. And," she said, "maybe he means it this time." Grant's throat tightened. "Does she want to see me?" "No." Iris's answer was firm. "She's not ready. Neither is Owen. But they're watching, paying attention, seeing if you follow through." "I will." "We'll see." Iris sounded tired. "Don't mess this up, Grant. They're kids. They don't understand adult complications. They just know their father hasn't been around. And now suddenly he is. If you disappear again, it'll hurt them worse than never showing up at all." "I'm not going to disappear." "So you say. But you've said a lot of things over the years." Fair point. How are you? Grant asked. With the funding gone? Struggling. But we're managing. Got a grant from another foundation. Enough to keep the lights on for a few months. If you need. I don't need your money, Grant. I need consistent, reliable help. Which you're providing. So keep doing that. She hung up. Grant sat in the silence of his tiny apartment. No empire. No reputation. No control. Just the knowledge that his daughter had asked about him. Had noticed he was still showing up. It wasn't forgiveness. Wasn't even acceptance. But it was something. The next Tuesday, Grant arrived at the shelter to find Owen standing in the lobby with Iris. Grant froze. Owen stared at him. Silent. Assessing. He wanted to see where I work, Iris explained. He's not here to see you. We're leaving in a minute. Grant nodded. Okay. But Owen kept staring. Finally, the boy walked over. Stopped 3 feet away. Are you going to keep coming? Owen asked. Grant crouched down. Yes. Every week. Every week. What if we still don't want to see you? The question hurt. But Grant answered honestly. Then I'll keep coming anyway. Not to force you. Just to show you that I'm different now. Owen tilted his head. How do we know you're different? You don't. Not yet. But if I keep showing up, eventually you'll see. Owen considered this. Then he reached into his backpack and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He handed it to Grant. Mom says people who mean it prove it. Owen's voice was quiet. So prove it. Then he walked back to Iris. They left. Grant stood there, holding the paper. His hands shook as he unfolded it. It was a drawing. Stick figures. 4 of them. 1 labeled Mom. 1 labeled Piper. 1 labeled Owen. And 1 off to the side labeled Dad. The question mark felt like both a challenge and a possibility. Grant folded the paper carefully, put it in his pocket. Then he grabbed his mop and got back to work. Because words didn't matter anymore. Only showing up did. And for the first time in his life, Grant Holloway understood the difference. 2 months of Tuesdays and Thursdays. Grant had stopped counting after week 8, but his body kept track. Calluses on his hands. Permanent ache in his lower back. 10 lines from working outside in the shelter's garden. He looked different. Felt different. Today, he was repainting the community room. Iris had mentioned needing it done for weeks, so Grant bought the supplies himself and started early. The radio played quietly while he worked. He'd learned the residents didn't like silence. Made them nervous. You missed a spot. Grant turned. Piper stood in the doorway, arms crossed, wearing overalls and an expression that reminded him way too much of himself. His heart jumped. Hey. Mom said you've been coming for 2 months. Yeah. Why? Grant set down his paintbrush. Because I'm trying to become someone you might want to know someday. That's a weird answer. It's an honest one. Piper walked closer, studying the walls. You're actually good at painting. YouTube tutorials. She almost smiled. Almost. Mom says you resigned from your company. That you're broke now. Not broke. Just not rich anymore. Does it bother you? Grant thought about it. No. Turns out I don't miss any of it. Not even a little. Not even a little. Piper picked up a spare brush. Started painting the section he'd missed. They worked in silence for a few minutes. Owen drew you a picture, she said finally. I know. I keep it in my wallet. That's corny. Probably. More silence. Then, do you play chess? Grant looked at her. I used to. Haven't played in years. I play. Mom taught me. Piper's voice stayed casual, but Grant heard the test underneath. We have a board in the other room. You want to play? Maybe. If you're not busy. Grant looked at the half-painted wall. Then at his daughter. I'm not busy. They moved to the reading room. Old couch. Donated furniture. Chessboard set up on a coffee table that wobbled. Piper took black. Grant took white. They played without talking. Piper was good. Really good. Thought 3 moves ahead. Set traps. Didn't make obvious mistakes. Grant could win. Saw the path to checkmate in 7 moves. He considered throwing the game. Letting her win to make her like him. Then he remembered what she'd said at the gala. Don't let me win. That's insulting. So he played honestly, carefully, respected her enough to try. Piper won in 14 moves. You're better than I thought, she admitted. You're better than I expected, Grant said. Who taught you strategy? Mom. And YouTube. And I read books. Piper reset the board. Again, they played 3 more games. Grant won 1. Piper won 2. On the 4th game, Owen appeared. Stood in the doorway, watching them. Grant's breath caught. Both his kids. In the same room. Not running away. Hi, Owen, he said carefully. Owen didn't answer. Just came in and sat on the couch, watching the game. Piper moved her knight. Your turn. Grant studied the board. Moved his bishop. That's a mistake, Owen said quietly. Grant looked at him. Yeah. Owen nodded. Pointed at the board. She's going to trap your queen in 2 moves. He was right. Good eye, Grant said. He moved differently. They finished the game. Grant lost anyway, but it took longer. Do you have kids? Owen asked suddenly. The question hit hard. Grant looked at this boy, his son, asking if he had children. Yes, Grant said. 2. A boy and a girl. Do they live with you? No. They live with their mom. Do you see them? Grant's throat felt tight. Not as much as I want to, but I'm trying to change that. How? By showing up. Being consistent. Proving I'm someone they can count on. Owen processed this. What if they don't believe you? Then I keep showing up anyway. Because they deserve a dad who doesn't quit. Piper and Owen exchanged a look. Some silent twin communication Grant couldn't read. Mom's in her office, Piper said. She knows we're here. Translation. Iris was allowing this. Watching. Testing. Does she want me to leave? Grant asked. She said it's up to us. Piper studied him. So we're deciding. Fair enough. They played 2 more games. Owen joined in, offering commentary. Pointing out moves. Explaining strategy to Grant when he missed something obvious. At some point, Carmen walked by with her daughter. Saw them. Did a double take. That's wild, she muttered. Never thought I'd see the day. Other residents started noticing. Whispers in the hallway. Side glances. Grant ignored it all. Focused on the game. On his kids. After an hour, Iris appeared. Time to go. Piper and Owen stood immediately. Can we come back Thursday? Piper asked her mom. Iris looked at Grant. Will you be here Thursday? I'm always here Thursday. Then, maybe. Iris's expression softened slightly. Just slightly. We'll see. The twins grabbed their backpacks. Owen paused at the door. You're not as bad as I thought, he said. It was the best compliment Grant had ever received. After they left, Grant sat alone in the reading room, staring at the chessboard, replaying every moment. Carmen poked her head in. Your kids. Grant nodded. They're good kids. Smart. Kind. She paused. Don't screw this up. I won't. A lot of people say that. Then they do anyway. I know. Grant looked at her. But I'm not making promises I can't keep. I'm just showing up. Every Tuesday. Every Thursday. For as long as it takes. Carmen studied him. You really changed, didn't you? I'm trying to. Huh. She almost smiled. Maybe some people can. That Thursday, Grant arrived to find both twins already there. Waiting in the reading room. Chessboard set up. You came back, Piper said. I said I would. People say a lot of things. I'm not people. I'm your dad. And I keep my word now. Owen climbed onto the couch. Can you teach me chess openings? Grant's chest ached. Yeah, I can do that. They spent 2 hours playing, talking, learning each other. Grant didn't push, didn't force affection, just existed beside them, present, consistent. Near the end, Piper asked, Where do you live now? Small apartment. 20 minutes from here. Is it nice? It's enough. She nodded. Mom says enough is better than too much sometimes. Your mom's smart. We know. Piper reset the board again. One more game before we go. This time, Owen played. Grant coached him through it. Taught him how to think ahead. How to protect his pieces while planning attacks. Owen lost. But he smiled anyway. That was fun, he said. 3 words. But they meant everything. When Iris came to collect them, she lingered in the doorway, watching Grant pack up the chess set. They talk about you at home now, she said quietly. Ask when we're coming back. If you'll be here. I'll always be here. Don't say, always. You don't know what's coming. Then I'll be here as often as you let me. How's that? Iris's expression softened. Better. She started to leave, then turned back. You're different, Grant. I don't know if it'll last. But you're different. I hope so. Me too. That night, Grant walked back to his apartment, thought about the penthouse he used to own, the empire he used to run, the man he used to be. None of it mattered. What mattered was 2 kids who were starting to believe their father might actually stick around. What mattered was showing up. Every time. Without fail. What mattered was becoming someone worth knowing. Not for applause or recognition, but because it was right. Grant still had legal battles ahead. Still owed restitution to people he'd hurt. Still had years of work to make up for the damage he'd caused. But for the first time in his life, he wasn't running from the pain. He was walking towards something real. Redemption wasn't a destination. It was a direction. And Grant Holloway was finally facing the right way. If this story moved you, don't forget to like. It really helps the channel grow. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from and your favorite moment in the story. And subscribe to Mr. William Chronicles so you don't miss stories like this. We tell stories about people who face their worst mistakes and fight to become better. And trust me, there are more coming. See you in the next one.